major event is. It's all about the battle to getting there in the first place. It's not just that one day in 4 years, it's all the other days in between.
When the crew were formed in 1997, they agreed to record intimate video diaries of their lives for the BBC series Gold Fever. Little did they realise how their dramatic story would capture the hearts of the nation. In 1996, Steve became the greatest British Olympian, winning his 4th consecutive gold medal, 2 with partner Matthew Pinsent. And it seems Steve, aged 34, would retire.
Anyone sees me go anywhere near a boat, you've got my permission to shoot me. I do not ever want to get in a boat again. I've had enough.
But soon after, Steve changed his mind. The temptation of a possible 5th gold medal proved irresistible.
Hours after it, I was starting to think the Sydney Games is going to be good, and I wanted to be part of that. I find it a bit frustrating now is that people find that they feel that I'm not a man of my word.
Steve really had to go on, didn't he? I mean, he had 4 gold medals. He was 34 years of age. And to be quite honest and maybe quite blunt, what else was he going to do?
He phoned me up and I said, "Oh, are you going to carry on?" He said, "Yes." Then I said, "Well, it's not going to be in a pair, is it?" And he said, "No, let's try and do a 4.
Extensive national trials uncovered the 2 best rowers to join Steve and Matthew in a 4-man boat known as a coxless 4. They were James Cracknell, then aged 25, and Tim Foster, aged 27.
There wasn't an issue with it being Steve and Matthew plus 2 others. It wasn't as if it was their pair plus 2, and that was quite a key thing for James and I going into it. It had to be a bit of give and take.
They were heroes in a way, but I've been in the national team for a few years, so it was just a step up to racing with them. And they'd always won, any international regatta or the World Championships, and that was something that I wanted to do.
The crew survived on lottery money and sponsorship. They were thrown together into intensive 7-day-a-week training under the eye of legendary coach, East German Jürgen Grobler. The crew had to learn to live and compete with each other, both at home and abroad.
This is your best performance ever. See what it's like.
I think we're very, very mixed personalities in some respects. I'm not quite sure how they would describe me. Selfish, pig-headed, hard to work with, frustrating.
Tim's the most relaxed, definitely the most laid back.
But when it comes to the major events, he's as switched on as any of us.
I don't think you describe me. Lazy, probably. Talented but lazy.
Matthew, he knows what he can do, potentially, and so he doesn't really need to extend himself all the time, which can be frustrating.
James is more emotional. He has much higher highs than we do from when things are going well, but then the opposite when things are not going so well.
James is probably the hungriest out of all 4 of us. He's so desperate for success.
Success came early when the crew won their first World Championship race in 1997. They had rowed together triumphantly and future glory seemed certain.
Great Britain take the gold. Cracknell and Foster side by side, equal partners with Redgrave and Pinsent.
But the joy of their first win was short-lived. Steve learned news that threw his future and that of the crew's into jeopardy. He had developed diabetes.
You think, well, that's it, that's my rowing career over. I suppose I was depressed, slightly depressed of knowing there was something wrong with me. But it was sort of an air of that, well, this is it, this is over in some respects, of no big trauma within it. It's got to end at some stage, and it seems like it's going to be now.
He came in my house with Anne and told me his diagnosis was diabetes. He was really absolutely down.
Steve was adamant he should stop, and after quite a bit of discussion, Jürgen and I persuaded him that perhaps he would see that year through, and at the end of the year take a look at what he'd achieved, had it stopped him doing what he was trying to do, And at that point, maybe stop if he felt he couldn't succeed, but not just give in because he'd been diagnosed as diabetic.
But it wasn't until we sort of talked through it with the specialist, and he said that that in his eyes that he couldn't see any reason why not I couldn't achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. He also said it wasn't going to be easy, and as soon as he said that, then the path was sort of set that I had to carry on of see how far down the road that we could get. These are the syringes. I'd rather hadn't happened. But all you can do is live with it and get on with it, cope with it.
You could see him going along in a rowing machine test. He'd be doing fine for 2/3, and then suddenly he'd just disappear into, oblivion. And that was really worrying for all of us, I think, to see him struggling that way. He hated it.
He was pushing there and pulling, and nothing happens, You feel like you're driving a car, the fuel doesn't come through, and,
Saw him having a tough time, but he never really let us into how bad it was. So the first time I knew exactly how bad it was when I actually saw watch Golf even and heard him telling the camera stuff he hadn't told us.
The ergo is the worst time to do it because it's right in front of everybody. Everyone can see you. And you just feel such an arse. I can do it. No question. Right, that's enough of depression. Let's get on with it. Give yourself 18 units of insulin.
Steve's diabetes would continue to dog him throughout his preparation for the Sydney Olympics. He felt he constantly had to prove himself and that his place in the four was never certain. Despite the sacrifices the rowers made to win on the water, off the water they also had their own personal lives to consider. Steve and Anne were expecting an addition to the family.
Well, this is what life's about.
And she's pretty understanding, but without that, I don't think there was any way that I could have carried on the length of time that I've been involved in the sport.
Rowing takes up 7 days a week. It is a full-time commitment, and more so than most full-time jobs. So sometimes I felt like a single parent, off on training camps.
With any relationships, there are times that things don't go very smoothly, and there has to be compromise on both sides. I wanted to be there for the birth of my kids, and I've been there for all three of them, but life has to go on.
When Zach was born, Steve needed to go training, and almost as soon as the baby was out, he wanted to go. And at the time, rather he stayed with me for a time being.
Right, am I going to row?
If you want to. Oh, you bitch. Well, I wasn't impressed with myself, I have to say.
I was there for the birth, but then I have to go and do my job. Got to go and earn the money to carry on.
As well as his Olympic training, James had embarked on a new relationship, and his girlfriend Emily had moved in.
The first time I sort of lived with someone, although she was moving into my house rather than sort of setting up a home together, but it was interesting, and it was good.
Wow. My preparation for tomorrow will be hard sex. Is that the preparation for tomorrow?
Tim has a history of back problems. He's like the Bionic Man, he's glued together, stuck together. He just about keeps going and gets back on the medal podium, and it's just fantastic. And so then he got a bad niggle again.
What they've spotted at the moment is a tear and a sort of small bulge.
Tim's niggle became serious. In 1993, he had a disc removed, and now he faced spinal surgery for the second time.
It proves there is a problem there that we do need to address.
I had this goal of still an Olympic dream of standing on the top of the rostrum and winning gold medals, and yet I was a million miles away from that.
If he hadn't had surgery and tried to carry on, then he would have risked being paralysed. Such is the nature of disc problems. So, he really had a choice. Either he entertained the surgery or he stopped rowing.
It was daunting, but something that was necessary, and that was real low time for me, because the injury itself could always come back. There were no guarantees. There was no guarantee that I could come back from the operation.
Tim had a second disc removed in a major operation at Christmas 1998.
I want to win that gold medal in Sydney more now than I ever have, and basically it means that, I don't know, when I'm standing up there at the top of the roster, I'll know what I've had to go through to get there.
I think I do have the ability to sort of see the positive in a lot of things. I'm not someone who'll wallow in self-pity and feel sorry for themselves and maybe miss out on an opportunity because of it. Go!
With Tim out of action and the Olympics looming, the crew had to find a replacement. Next best rower in the country was 23-year-old Ed Code.
I thought, okay, well, this is my turn. Get into the fore, enjoy it while I can, kind of thing. And it still seemed like a long enough time away from the Olympics at that point for that to be perfectly reasonably happening. And Tim would be out for, I don't know, 2 weeks, a month. I wasn't really all that nervous when I first got into the fore, and looking back, that seems a bit odd because it was a big step in my rowing career.
Tim was on the slow road to recovery.
So my mum looked after me. She did everything for me. I was either lying in my bed upstairs or I was lying on the settee downstairs, and she was feeding me, kind of making me drinks. She was dressing me.
We would watch him walking, and his body would be at an angle from a different angle to his legs, and he looked really odd for quite a time, and we really wondered whether he'd ever walk in a upright position again.
Tim, see it? After 3 months on his back, Tim was making steady progress, but at a crew meeting he learned that his return to the fore was by no means assured.
How we integrate Tim.
I had this meeting, and Jürgen talked about my recovery. At this point, we were now more sure of me coming back into a boat.
I must admit, I'm not looking to get back into the team. I'm looking to get back into this crew.
It's going to take time, and obviously we hope that he gets back, but see what happens as it develops.
The result of the meeting was clear. Tim was faced with 2 battles, one to get fit and one to win back his place in the fore.
I did still feel part of the team, and I always felt that if I was back rowing, then I'd be in the team. But to me, the issue was whether I would ever get back to rowing.
5 weeks later, Tim made his return to a boat.
This is it. It's the first outing of Foster. First time he's taken to the water since whenever, October. It's got a nice sunny day for it, jammy bastard.
I can't remember what I'm doing.
It's really nice to see him go out again. He's a strong bastard, mentally, Hopefully he'll come back to what he was, and then it'll be good to get the fore going again.
Despite being back on the water, Tim's hopes of a quick return to the crew were dashed. Ed took his place for the 1999 World Championships.
Tim, he didn't make it on the Coxless Fore, but he makes big progress.
I was aware that Tim was not happy with the situation, but by then I had spent 5 months in the fore. I guess I was starting to feel that I had a certain right to race in the World Championships, at least that year.
I still feel today that the best World Championship row that we've ever had throughout the whole of my career was the 99 World Championships at St Catherine's, and that was with Ed in the boat.
Great Britain, the hand goes up, and another gold medal for this awesome Coxless Fore. Yeah.
At the end of the World Championship, Tim wasn't missed, was he really? Because they won, and they won in style.
Ed Coode, his first at international level.
I'd like to think that some of the credit for that victory went in my direction, that I at least played my quarter role in the fore.
We basically have 5 people for 4 places, and one of us isn't going to go to Olympic Games in the Coxless Fore.
With the Olympics fast approaching, Jürgen had not yet decided who would be in the Coxless Fore. The crew faced a crucial rowing machine test known as the Ergo to help Jürgen make up his mind.
I got the feeling in the beginning of 2000 that Jürgen had already selected the 4 slightly. And I really felt like, well, I'm going to have to do something really spectacular in the next test to change his mind.
In an attempt to impress Jürgen, Ed began the test too quickly and failed.
It suddenly felt a lot harder than it should. All I can guess is that it was the whole selection process weighing on my mind, and it was coming to a head about then.
Come on, Timo! He's the right thing!
I felt after that day, really, that my place wasn't so much under threat. It was a question of Jürgen sorting things out and getting selection sorted, so I was still confident I was the better rower.
I had this conversation with Jürgen, and he said there was no question about it. He said the 4 best people will be in the 4. That's the way that I will run the group. If that's Ed over Tim, or Tim over Ed, or either of them over me, that's the case. That's what will happen.
Go.
Steve's position was also under threat because of his illness.
With the diabetes, there were particular things which he found more difficult than others. One of those was the ergo test.
Steve's diabetes made his blood sugar levels difficult to manage, leaving him without enough energy during the critical selection tests. If he couldn't get the balance right, there was strong public speculation that he might not go to the Olympics.
Steve didn't perform on the ergo. Public was around. You know, the press started to asking questions. Should that guy to the Olympic Games? He's too old, you know, he's not performing anymore. So I think it was a lot of pressure. And a lot of people asking me the question, should he be in the boat? Seen his best days, you know, Ed and Tim is so good. And I'm sure Steve picked up those things as well.
When you're not performing to the level that you know you can perform at, or perform at the level that you used to be able to perform at, then that becomes very frustrating, and that you don't want to be the weakest link within the unit.
The crunch day came when Jürgen had to make his final decision on who would row in the 4 in Sydney.
Steve, I think he has demonstrated to me his performance, and I think from my point of view I see no problem there not to have him in the boat. Tim, I think my position is to have Tim back in his seat.
At the end of the day, the selection was going to go that way, and that was the right selection to make. I've never felt seriously aggrieved that the decision should have been anything else than what it was.
He was cross that the decision had taken so long, and yet, being Ed, he said, right, okay, this is the decision that's been made, and now I'm going to throw myself into a totally new challenge.
Ed would still be rowing for gold in Sydney, but in a 2-man boat with gold medal winner Greg Searle. 4 months before the Olympics, with the coxless 4 crew finally settled, James didn't seem to be himself. He was having problems at home with Emily.
You're on film. I'm pretty moody and she's pretty stroppy, so it's...
How can you see the difference on them?
Because some of them are... Because I know them. I spend my life in them. I can tell the difference, and some trap my bollocks in an uncomfortable way.
James honestly recorded the ups and downs of his relationship in his video diary. When he and Emily split up, Jürgen and the crew became increasingly concerned about him.
You know, if you see them in the gym and rowing off those strong big guys, you can't be so sensitive. But it was really very, very deep, very difficult. And I noticed when he lost weight, he still came in the first time to training. He never missed training, but he lost a lot of weight. He gets so skinny. And I thought, Jesus Christ, James, what's going on? And
it's the first time really that in 4 years the Olympics hasn't been a priority. I'm still losing weight. In a way, it's bad, but I blame rowing for what's happened, because how the way it consumes my life in terms of emotionally. It really does. you know, I give it everything, and I just haven't given the relationship everything, and that's driven them away.
James is, sort of, as I said, an all or nothing person, and I think he completely threw himself into the relationship with Emily. He was willing to sacrifice whatever he could, and he's like that with rowing, and the problem comes when he can't sacrifice himself completely into a relationship and completely into rowing.
Everyone knows what's been going on with me, and I've been coming down, but probably going through the motions and not really thinking about the rowing, and I've got to decide what's important, what I want to do.
It was a time when the personal side came into the rowing. If James was underperforming as a rower, then we were suffering rowing-wise, and if we could help him out as friends and as teammates, and it would not only benefit him, and it sounds kind of strange, but it would also benefit us.
It's not as easy as saying, right, well, winning an Olympics is more important to me at the moment than anything else, or they are different things, and you can have both.
I can have both, but I can't just think about one all the time, which is what I'm doing, and that's...
Okay.
Everyone had their own bit of advice. You know, don't change for it to work again. If it's not meant to be, it won't happen.
You know, if I don't win the Olympics, I'm going to look back for the rest of my life and regret it. And the last 2 weeks have been pretty hard. And you know, I've just got to go back to being myself. And if that means we're not going to get back together, that's not important. But I feel that the four of you are the things that matter the most to me.
So you want us to move in?
At the last pre-Olympic regatta held in Lucerne, the four encountered the crews they would ultimately race in Sydney. An unexpected result shook the rowing world.
And that is the scalp of Stephen Redgrave as they go off towards their...
I felt very strange going into Lucerne, and I remember telling my parents, at the moment it doesn't feel quite right, we're either very tired or we're just not firing properly, because I think we could well struggle.
Great Britain at the moment are well and truly defeated.
I think we started to kid ourselves that we couldn't be beaten. That was our gold medal as of right, and what Lucerne proved to us was that we would have to work at it, that other people wanted it just as badly as we did.
This is just amazing. What can we say?
Great Britain fourth, and they just sat there on the line and just like gutted.
The decisive Italian victory threatened the fours' dream of Olympic glory.
The story's not over yet. We've got the next 2 months to get back on track, get out to Sydney, and we're going to win that gold medal.
Finally, the moment of reckoning had come for the men. The team arrived in Sydney, but had they regained their form to win the Olympic final?
Once the game started, the flame was there, and it was a permanent reminder. The first thing you could see in the morning was this Olympic flame, and if you ever needed a reminder of where you were or what you were doing there, then that was it.
The whole of Sydney seemed to be talking about the Cox's Fall and Steve Redgrave. Everyone had seen Lucerne a few months before, and everyone wanted to know how they're going.
There is Steve Redgrave.
To me, it wasn't somebody going for 5 Olympic gold medals. It was about a 4 trying to achieve a gold medal within Sydney.
Tim Foster, James Cracknell and Steve Redgrave all together.
I was nervous going there. Everyone's so aware of the fact that this is the event that you've been training for 4 years, and if you win, you're going to be remembered forever, and if we'd lost, we'd have been remembered forever, but for the wrong reasons.
No one in the four had much sleep the night before the final. Passions were running high. Back home in Britain, a nation was on the edge of its seat.
I was up first because I was having treatment on my back, and I just remember looking at them and thinking they looked really nervous.
The morning of the final was pretty special. I mean, we'd all waited so long for it, that day to come, and we got to the course. It was still dark, and as we were at the top of the course, the sun started to come over the bush at the back, and we were rowing down. In the last 500 metres, we could start hearing shouts for Britain, and that's about sort of 6 o'clock in the morning.
And you've got hairs on the back of your neck standing up, and you're thinking, I don't want to be getting this excited yet. That yes, you're nervous and ready to go, but you've still got another 3 hours plus before it's race time.
It was a very emotional, charged week. You know, all our family were there just about. And then we as the closest to relations were inundated with interviews and microphones. How do you feel now?
And how are you feeling right at this moment?
Pretty shaky, but I think they've got the power, and if they won't panic, I think it's probably me that'll panic, but I think they'll do it.
I'm not calm at all. I'm just like a bowl of jelly.
Very pleased that he's made it, yes. Yeah, 12 months ago it was fairly doubtful whether he would, but we're pleased he's here.
An hour before the big race, Ed rode for gold with Greg in the final of the coxless pairs. Ed's girlfriend Claire cheered him on.
How difficult has it been for him not being in the coxless four, being known for being left out, I suppose?
I think it's a good thing. He's on his own, he's doing something of his own, he's going to do as best he possibly can, and I think that's all that matters, really.
Greg, let's go! Great Britain have got to move now if they want to get into the medal position. Hold on, Greg, hold on, Ed!
The worst position to finish at the Olympic Games is fourth. And they got rowed down into fourth on the line.
You feel very emotional about it when you put so much into something and then in the space of 6 minutes it's all gone to pot.
I can't believe we've come fourth. I can't believe that after 3 years of our lives we've come away with a fourth place. Nothing for Greg and nothing for all the people who supported us along the way.
I feel really sorry for Ed, because had he been in the 4 we would have won, and had he been in the 8 I think they would have won as well.
We were just so sure that it was going to be the day. It was going to be the best day of our lives, and ended up being one of the worst.
Less than 10 minutes to go now to the start of the Coxless 4 final, and the waiting, as we've been saying, has been agony for everyone involved with the cruise.
I went very quiet, listened to my stereo. Steve paced around more than normal. Matthew slept more than normal, and Tim stretched more than normal.
It was me to go and have a word with James. He had his back to me, and I put my arms on his shoulder, and I said, "Don't worry, James, we're going to win this, no problem. It's our day, it's our race." And he turned round, and he had his Oakley glasses on, and you could see them. He was sort of welling up and nearly in tears. And at this point, you think, I can't do this. I'm going to cry myself.
We didn't think that anyone could beat us. There was an element that might have thought that we could. The only people who were going to lose it for us were ourselves, and that adds different pressure.
This is it, everybody. The final of the Coxless 4. Good luck, boys. Dan and Gary will call them home.
Then suddenly the starter then goes through the roll call, saying that everybody's ready. And you're thinking, well, I'm not quite ready yet. I wish it was tomorrow or next week. It's not time to go now. And then as he goes through, you think, well, this race is going to happen, if you're ready or not. So you might as well just get stuck into it.
Green light, here we're away. First time, watch the blue and white boat there in lane number 3, Great Britain.
Their race tactics were to win it from the beginning, to punch out, get right out to a lead of 1 length, kill the race. Within 100 metres, looking for that blue and white bows of the British boat. 150 metres, there it is.
Look at Great Britain go.
I could sense we were in the lead, and I allowed myself a look, and we were leading. I remember getting into the rhythm that we wanted to achieve, and it was part of my role anyway, was to try and establish the rhythm. And I felt, yeah, we'd done that, and it sensed that we were moving away. And I thought, well, yeah, this is good. This is how we want to do it.
We're coming to the halfway mark, and at the moment, Great Britain leads.
With the 1,000-metre push now, has to push them out to a length. We need clear water at 1,000 metres.
We would hope that Great Britain would have been out to a length, but look at that, the Italians, they're coming, they're fast now in the third 500 metres. Now let's see if Steve now will push on. 39 strokes per minute for Great Britain.
Watching Great Britain, watching them moving, they weren't opening it up. The Italians were having the row of their life.
I still believe they weren't looking at us to think, right, we can get the British here. They were more worried about what was happening behind them than what was happening in front of them.
Stephen has called it from the 2 seats. Matthew just lifts it up there on 39 strokes per minute. They're watching the Italians. The Italians, though, will not roll over.
The Italians are just there. They can see them. I remember seeing James looking left. James, look in the boat. Don't be watching the Italians, because you're going to be on their rhythm rather than your own. James is worried about looking out there, and you always tell an oarsman, never look out of the boat.
You're not supposed to look around, but no one can see me because I'm a bow. So But I'd rather know where the Italians are.
Responded, Matthew's responded, he's seen them coming, but they responded, he can go up to 44, where's the next gear? Up you go, Matthew, we want this 5th gold medal for Steve, up we go.
British boat, Italy, the line.
Matthew Pinsent is powering them through, but the Italians, they're still coming back.
British boat, Italy, the line.
Italy, 45 strokes per minute. Great Britain on 44.5.
British boat, the Italians, the line, and it's all just coming really close.
The Italians are coming strong. We're up to the line. Can we hold it? Watch out for Italy. Great Britain on the line. Here we go. Just Great Britain get the gold medal and relief all round. Great Britain, it's gold here at Penrith Lane.
I just thought, oh God, thank God for that. Thank God for that. Because what was I going to say if they got rowed down and they lost?
They've done it. Relief, exhaustion and triumph.
And I remember crossing the line and sort of leaning over my oar, and it suddenly hits you of the pain that comes through from a race, and your legs are aching, you're gasping for breath, your lungs are sort of screaming out for oxygen, and you're thinking, God, this really hurts. And then you think, I'm 5 times Olympic champion. I'm going to be 5 times Olympic champion for the rest of my life. I can put up with 5-10 minutes of pain. That's going to go away. But 5 Olympic gold medals is never going to go away.
I'm not sure, did he do it? Our eldest daughter was convinced that they'd actually lost and was just beside herself, sobbing so much. I know that they won, I'd seen it on the scoreboard, but trying to convince her was really quite difficult.
Yeah, and Matthew going back, and rightly so, Matt, rightly so.
I was just on autopilot for all those minutes of jumping up and down and shouting and waving and then going back and seeing Steve and falling in the lake. I have absolutely no idea what I was thinking. I didn't even say anything to him when I got back there. He was half unconscious anyway, and so was I.
Thing that we will see in this Olympic Games. He's out! He's out of the boat!
I'll always remember when there was a big sweaty Matthew who climbed over me and went over to Steve and then fell in. That wasn't something I was particularly pleased about, but considering it was that pretty good moment, I'll let him off that.
Here's a delighted coach, Jürgen Grobler. What a race!
Yeah, it was outstanding race. I think it was a millennium race, and especially have that Stephen Redgrave in there is brilliant.
Today, winning his 5th Olympic gold medal, I think he's put himself into greatest Olympian that Britain certainly has ever produced, and arguably in the world.
0.38 seconds, Steve.
Doesn't matter, does it? So who crosses the line first?
Great Britain. And there are just fantastic moments here.
Receiving the Olympic gold medal again was very, very special. And I knew that it was going to be my last Olympic final, and I wanted to enjoy it.
It's hard to sum up in words, and everyone was pretty happy. Seeing Steve smile for more than 10 seconds is a good thing. He hasn't stopped smiling 6 months down the line.
I came into the stand and I remember seeing my mum, and my mum had helped me through it, and I could never have done it without her help in terms of the back or other things. And it was a particularly emotional moment when I saw her, and I had to admit I had a few contact lens problems at that point.
And all of a sudden it's over and you've won. The kind of cocktail of emotions that's rushing around is difficult to describe. You're just not yourself. It's great, I can recommend it, but you're just not yourself.
And Great Britain, the Olympic gold medalist, and what a feeling, and on Matthew's face.
To be honest, I cried for 48 hours after the end of the race. Stephen couldn't understand why. I just kept bubbling up in tears.
All over now, it's just time. No more rowing sessions.
Within the past hour, many of Britain's Olympic medal winners have arrived back home from Sydney. They were given a rapturous welcome.
Well done, Stephen.
When you're on the other side of the world, you're wrapped up in what you're trying to do and achieve the sort of things. You're not fully aware of how special those 2 weeks of the Sydney Games were for the British public, and our race in particular.
I've never signed a lilo before.
If you want me, you have to go quite quickly.
Don't call me, Robert.
So I'm just about to get into a car.
I toyed with the idea for some time of buying Steve a present. He, from the age of 5 or 6, I'd always wanted a Jaguar. Unbeknown to him, I'd been scheming to buying one, and he was like a Cheshire cat.
I was stunned and shocked. That certainly wasn't expecting that at all. And then the realisation that we have a joint bank account. And thinking, I've just paid for this car myself.
Every vantage point was taken as Steve Redgrave and his family toured the town.
It seemed Britain couldn't get enough of the four. Their victory became a symbol of national pride. Everyone wanted a part of them, especially Steve.
You walk into somewhere and you get a standing ovation. You think, well, who's just walked in? And you're looking over your shoulder to see who's there.
Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest Olympian of modern times, Stephen Redgrave.
Steve's incredible 5-medal achievement delighted everyone. He received a standing ovation at the National TV Awards, but he still seemed unwilling to say goodbye to the sport that had given him so much.
Steve, what would you say if I said to you, Athens 2004?
Maybe.
Maybe. Fantastic. Let's have a look at that medal.
But the way that we look at it, Anna and myself, is it's sort of the beginning of the end or the beginning of the beginning.
The Redgraves are having to live in a mobile home while their Marlow house is being rebuilt.
Literally looks like a bomb's hit it. Windows gone completely. No floor above it. Looks quite sorry.
Rowing for 25 years, the first 20 was certainly on the breadline. The last 5 years has been being able to survive reasonably comfortably, and then since the games it's sort of really exploded really, and the earning capacity has been quite amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Redgrave and Matthew Pinsent!
Steve and Matthew are busier than ever with their new lucrative careers as TV personalities.
Steve Redgrave.
They're everywhere.
Matthew Pinsent! Steve Redgrave!
One accolade that Steve covets has eluded him for years.
BBC Sports Personality of the Year, the greatest Olympian of all, Steve Redgrave.
Being voted by the public from a minor sport of rowing is really a very, very nice feeling.
Thank you very much for that. 16 years I've been coming here. I had to hint this time that I was going to retire.
It was a very, very special night indeed, and to be given Sports Personality of the Year is a great honour.
Tim and James are relishing the media spotlight too, and it seems the public can't get enough of them.
Now, do you know what you're doing today?
A topless shot, I heard.
Yes, it's going to be a topless shot. It's going to be very, very artistic, very Greek godlike. I mean, basically, ideally, what we want to do is we kind of like wanted to do. It's kind of going to be more of a new thing than just topless, but don't be scared.
So just on your chest and your arms, just to so you know it sort of defines your muscles.
Listening.
Yeah.
Cheating, you mean?
I don't think you need to cheat.
They suddenly became these kind of national heroes. Let's put them up on the pedestal a bit. We love them, basically. That's it. Especially with no clothes on. Something for the ladies.
That's a strange feeling.
Tell you what, I wish I had an arse like yours. My girlfriend's forever asked me to work mine out. Wicked. Give me that profile again. That's it. Like Atlas. Thinking woman's trumpet. Fantastic. And up again. That's good. Right, straight to film.
I haven't actually told my mum yet. I don't know if she reads Cosmo, so I'm waiting to see if she flicks through to the middle pages and recognises her baby boy.
I think we've got that. I'd shake your hands, James, but I know exactly where they've been, so... Tim. There's always 8 Greek people, is it?
Oh, yeah.
When you're ready. Okay. That's it, superb. Just give me that little smooth, look, a bit of a headache, yeah?
Quite fun, it wasn't Didn't really feel like you were naked, or everyone was. What's the size of his dick?
That's it. That's wicked. Real Mr. Atlas.
The lady was very friendly. Didn't go when I came off.
It's ultimately down to the Olympics, but it's not something that we were sitting on the start line thinking, okay, if we pull really hard here and go really quick, then maybe I'll get naked on the centrefold of a women's magazine.
Now, your wife, Anne, I mean, has she ever said to you, Steve, why don't you go out and get a decent job?
She's never said about getting a decent job. She says, what about going and getting a job?
I actually got bored of leading people on and couldn't wait until the actual official announcement of my official retirement. But even then, people don't believe me. They don't believe me now that I've stopped.
At Rowing HQ, the future of the other 3 rowers is under discussion.
I know you're driven to do all that you want to do in terms of your rowing career, but just think a little bit broader.
I think if you do 4 more years training, you're going to end up the stiff back quicker than if you actually gave it up now. But whether actually that is going to be sort of detrimental in the long term, I'm not sure.
They didn't sort of lumber me with the, well, it's a gold medal or a wheelchair. It seemed definitely it wasn't that. It was, okay, if you want to carry on, then there is a cost to it, but we're happy to support you if you want to do it. Therefore, yeah, I'm happy to go ahead myself.
Today, Matthew's revealing his future plans after rumours he was considering retirement.
I'm happy to announce that I will carry on and continue the training that I've started since the new year and hopefully finish off in Athens with another Olympic gold medal.
With Steve now out of the boat, media attention focuses on Matthew as Britain's #1 rower.
You've got to get used to being recognised a lot more, and the other thing you've got to get used to is this kind of TV world.
Matthew is becoming accustomed to living in the limelight, but is having to balance the hard business of rowing with his new celebrity status.
Tonight, 3 men in a boat, a heavyweight coxed pair. Move over redgrave, it's Pinsent and Bruno. Hello.
I don't know what a proper celebrity does, but I doubt it's rowing every morning. I haven't seen Victoria Harvey down at the river. Tara Palmer-Tompkinson wasn't sitting on the ergo next door to me this morning. You know, I've wanted to be successful as a sportsman, not successful as a celebrity. But I've got to realise that there are some parts of my life that rely on that. The publicity is something that I make money from, I make an income from.
Well, our next guest is a man who has won 3 gold medals, quite literally, in a row. Matthew, oars are his cause, Pinsent.
What I'm struggling with is private time. Is getting time with Dee, or trying to see my parents, or trying to find room to see friends or whatever. That becomes tough.
From the outside, it seems like their lifestyles are very glamorous, but they also have to sacrifice quite a few things, and that makes it somewhat challenging and sometimes somewhat frustrating to be in a relationship.
In addition to his Henley home, Matthew has bought a flat in London with Demetra, who also has a demanding career.
She has time at the weekends, whereas I have probably less time at the weekends if I'm training in the morning. So, that was one of the reasons why we bought here, was because it would be a chance for us to see more of each other.
Since Sydney, James has found love again with TV presenter Beverly Turner. They're shopping for a bed for their new home.
Very short skirt on. Don't look, James, don't look.
Don't point it out.
I think it would be hard to go out with a rower if you didn't have your own life, because so much of their time is taken up with rowing. You have to accept that. And I wouldn't want to change him in any way, so, I really respect what he does. Talent is such an aphrodisiac. Oh, look, it's perfect. It's a boat bed. Oh, James, look, it's perfect. That's so ugly. Go on, get on it. Go on.
I can't, there's no riggers, it's totally unrealistic as boat beds go.
Do you like
I
that?
can make some crack that actually I should be on that side because that's bow side.
Oh my God, you're so cheesy.
So anal.
Tim's moved into a flat above an old boathouse by the Thames.
We come down the corridor past the naked Oxford crew that I rowed in. And come into the bedroom, which once again is a mess. But It's now a bachelor pad, hence the newly arrived sort of animal skin features. It's everything you'd have in your normal bedroom. You've got your clothes all over the floor, but you've also got your Olympic medal wrapped up, was in a sock and is now in a glasses case. But yeah, it's sort of tucked away and obviously been really well looked after, hence the dent on the side when I dropped it.
Back training daily, the rowers brave the harsh reality of cold early mornings. James and Matthew have decided to row as a pair. James has changed the side of the boat he rows on and is having to relearn his technique. Retirement never so much as crossed his mind.
After Sydney, my dad, he was still going, when are you going to get a proper job? I think he's realised that it's a bit of an ongoing thing now, and maybe another 4 years before I get a proper job.
The Coxless 4 crew from the Olympics won't continue without Steve.
You could say, okay, fine, there's 3 guys left, just put the other one in and carry on. But I think we discussed on fine, Coxless 4 project is finished. We have a clean sheet of paper and building again a new Olympic team.
It's selection time again. Jürgen's hunt is on for the best rowers to man Britain's top boat at the Athens Olympics. It could be a pair, 4, or even an 8-man boat.
Well, not overloading the stroke with so patient drive. Yeah? Connection drive. And that's good, Matthew.
Everyone in the men's squad is in pairs at the moment. So they found partners and are training in the smallest possible rowing boat. It's into trials in April, sorting out who sits where in what boats. It's trying to get as far up the ranking as I possibly can with James in a pair next month is really important for us. Because if we win the pairs trials, then we'll be in the top boat. Ed says he's going to carry on, so we're racing with Ed and Greg in April, and just as we want to win the pairs trials, so will they. So that'll be quite a big battle for all 4 of us.
Ed and Greg are again rowing in a pair. They're training at an Italian camp, preparing for their spring trials tussle with Matthew and James.
Greg and I do have unfinished business. I always felt really wound up in my own little world of making a boat go quickly on water backwards kind of thing, which isn't really the most important thing in the world. But I'd love to be sitting in a pair with Greg at the start line in Athens to correct our mishap in Sydney.
In spite of Tim's determination to carry on, his body's let him down yet again. This time it's his knee. However, he is back on the water as a coach.
We want to move in sympathy with the boat and with each other at all times.
It's my chance to give something back to the sport. If I can coach and I enjoy it and I pass some knowledge or some inspiration on to somebody else, then that's pretty good.
The ferociously competitive selection process continues. The ergo test pitches rower against rower.
You just go as quick as you can for that period of time.
Tim is ill, so he had knee problems, so he can't do it today, but of course James and Matthew is doing it.
You always want to be the best person at the moment. Matt is the best person in Britain, at least on the ergo, and it'd be nice to take him out today. Get his arse in gear. There's a lot of testosterone flying around today and a lot of nerves, I think.
Okay, get ready.
Matthew is the UK record holder for the 2,000-metre ergo, and James wants to beat him. With his teammates competing to get into the top boat, Tim just wants to get back into any boat. His knee injury needs attention.
I think Tim is just going to carry on until he's in a wheelchair, because that boy doesn't know how to give up.
So what do we think with this one then, Mark?
We've come up with some sort of inflammatory response in the pocket above the top of his kneecap. Not a common thing for the rowers, but then nothing surprises us with Tim now, does it?
In the ergo test, it's close. James is just ahead of Matthew.
It's a bit of a confidence knock. It is something that worries me. If Jürgen or other rowers are thinking, oh, well, Tim's always going to be a liability, then that's very definitely going to count against me in terms of selection and what boat I end up in. I don't want to be kind of the best rower on his day, but has had his day.
I want to be the best rower and be in control of what's happening.
Well done, Matthew. Great.
James has almost rowed himself unconscious, but has beaten Matthew for the first time ever by just over 2 seconds.
5:47.6. James was 5:45.4. James will always collapse, and well, when a camera's here, he'll always fall off the ergo and make a big TV scene out of it.
I did 5:45, which is personal best by 2.5 as well, which is
Most improved prize. I knew James was going to go quicker than me, basically, whatever I did. I think I'm happy. As happy as you can ever be, losing to some monkey.
It's a silver medal talking
Steve's doctors have warned him that he can't just stop training. He needs to detrain, but he's more accustomed to 2,000-metre events.
I was asked by the marathon organisers if I'd start the race, and I said, well, I'd quite actually like to run in it as well.
The marathon, it was a moment of madness.
Training for the last 20 years international level, 25 years altogether, that you build your body up, and especially all the muscles, and the heart is just a muscle. So if you just suddenly stop, then that's not good. So you've got to wind down from that, and that's why I'm using the Flora London Marathon as a motivation to go out there and do some training.
The crowds, the adrenaline, the pressure. He's used to all that.
In 5-7 years' time, I don't want this new factor called the redgrave factor of somebody that's trained for such a long period of time and then done nothing and suddenly dropped dead.
There is one thing worrying him, though.
Being beaten by my wife.
Watch Steve Redgrave take on the world and his wife in the London Marathon.
For James and Matthew, and Ed and Greg, the moment of truth has come. The winners of the pairs final will row in Britain's top boat and also launch themselves on the quest for gold at the Athens Olympics. There's everything to row for.
Well, it's all very nervous, and it's always great because you have all the big names here, but it is noticeable now that Steve isn't around. And here we are at final trials where the focus of attention had always been Redgrave and Pinsent, and now it's kind of like, well, where's Steve?
How are you feeling, Steve?
Oh, now we're actually here. It's that looking forward to it, but waking up a couple of hours ago thinking, oh God, why did I say I was going to do this?
I think we're still planning to run together, so with the way that Anne's feet are, the chances are I'll have to stop a few times.
Thank you.
Well, we'll keep running then.
Steve has launched a charitable trust aiming to raise £5 million over 5 years for children. The marathon is Steve's first fundraising event. He and Anne want to finish in 4 hours.
James and Matthew have been flying, and those boys, they've come off Sydney on a major high, and they really want to now dominate the sport in the men's coxswains pairs. I think there's a lot of pressure on Greg and Ed because after Sydney last year, they so narrowly missed out. The atmosphere around here is great. It's not like a normal regatta because there's so much is dependent upon it. Jürgen, in his mind, will know what he wants. But all the guys are talking about, what ifs, what if this happens, what if James and Matthew come second? What happens then?
Any famous last words?
Where's the bus?
I feel better now than I did when I got up.
Steve may be wearing number 1, but he doesn't have the physique of a natural runner.
Steve Redgrave, well, unfortunately, I don't think he's fit enough somehow. He's 17 stone, you know.
21st running of the Flora London Marathon, and away they go. He's a competitor. He looked at his watch, started his watch, and he was away. There was no looking around and say, hello, Anne, are you there?
Finally, they're off. James and Matthew surge away from the start in front of Ed and Greg.
Tower Bridge, 12.5 miles gone.
Congratulations!
It's the biggest lap of honour I've ever done in my life.
Keep at it, Steve. You're looking great.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Matthew and James have set up a commanding lead.
Just going back to his big mate, Matt Pinsent, and his exploits back in the boat with James Cracknell. That's going very well for them so far.
With 500 metres to go, there's no question for Jürgen who his best pair are.
Oh yeah. We're there inside the last 2,000 metres. This is our distance now.
Matthew and James finish first, with Ed and Greg in third place. Steve and Anne arrive a little lower down the order.
And finally they come together. Steve Redgrave and Anne Redgrave.
The Redgraves eventually finished in just under 5 hours, but having set a new world record for pats on the back.
Steve adds yet another medal to his collection.
We know we're the strongest and the best endurance athletes, so no one's going to run us down. You know, Matt was a bit nervous before the race, I had to calm him down, you know, but once I've done that, we did well.
Yeah, jelly.
I think it was great, and I hope we start a new story.
We were third, so it's great because at least we're in the medals this time.
Didn't quite live up to my number, but we've always said all the way along that we wanted to complete. I wasn't really interested in time, but saying that, I was edging out to get under 5 hours when we started coming around the last couple of miles.
I think the likelihood is that, at least for this season, we'll be in the pair. Athens, I don't know.
After overcoming his knee injury, Tim is starting the season in a single scull.
Essentially, I carry on because I love rowing. I loved getting a gold medal, and that's a feeling that would never be taken away from me, but I would love to win another one. I still have the same dream, I still have the same aims, and as long as my body sort of stands by me and supports me, I want to be there in Athens.
Today the Coxless Four have relinquished their lycra vests. They're suited and booted for an appointment at the palace. The country honours them for their victory which inspired the nation, and their loved ones accompany them as they pick up their awards. Matthew receives a CBE, with Tim and James made MBEs. Steve's knighthood makes him Sir Steve.
Very proud day. I don't think proud really fills the bill, you know. It's the end of his career, and it's absolutely fantastic, really. Very, very.
To be honoured by the country 3 times. You don't even dream about for your kids to say coming from a working class background.
Sir Stephen Redgrave for services to rowing.
Really nice to be recognised outside sport. That's something that's very special.
Mr. Matthew Pinsent for services to rowing.
A bit like school speech day, really. A lot of hanging around up, quick hello, and a lot of fun.
Mr. James Cracknell and Mr. Timothy Foster for services to rowing.
I thought I was going to cry
Really?
at one point, and then I saw you and James
We're almost
having a
in time.
joke.
You can only receive one knighthood, so that's end of the road. Okay.